just to give you an update about what I've been doing. It seems quicker just to say it than to tweet it. Sometimes people say that the medium is the medium is a message. So I think that means that how you choose to convey your message, whether by email or social media platform in the form of Facebook or tweet or posts on Twitter, in some way has a bearing on the transmission and content of your message. I have several windows open before me, so I don't have to use notes. Hopefully I remember to go through all my points. So this morning started with me thinking of a particular person who I think has been showing signs of infantilization. He's some kind of software engineer, and what I've noticed in my interactions with software engineers is that they really have no political view. So this one I'm talking to says he's agnostic. I know he's well-meaning. He tries his best to be fair, but he gets pushed back because he has to, well, basically present me to people who hate me. Now, all these accusations have been answered by me on that particular channel, but they're either not accepted or not understood or deliberately distorted or forgotten, so the same accusations are made. I'm sorry. Where was I? I was talking about the software engineer who means well, but it's basically, well, he says he's agnostic, and I'm saying, oh yes, he was a kind of intermediary in that he started a stream, invited me on, probably because he didn't want to talk to me on his own. And so there were all these people who objected to my very presence, and then I was kicked off by Jacob Faturecci, who told him that I had offended this person who allowed me on. And I mean, what's going on here? This person Should I even give him a name? Am I doxing him? I don't bear him any malice. I see that he's basically well-meaning, but he's getting pushed back because of my controversial reputation. And basically, he wants to be fair, but he gets pushed back. And I suppose, as an agnostic, he wonders whether he's done the right thing. Is he going to get punished by being fair? And if so, is it worth it? Understandably, anyone who has this mindset will be confused and decide that discretion is a better part of valor. Is that the correct way of putting it? You live to fight another day. Yes, it is actually a word, a saying, and I have not misremembered it. It means it is better to avoid a dangerous situation than to confront it. I hardly think I am a dangerous person. Well, I'm not likely to attack you physically. I don't have a reputation for going around committing assault on strangers. I do have some ideas which I understand and accept are considered to be controversial and possibly frightening to a lot of people. But, well, it's just an idea. An idea is something that you can entertain without accepting it. That is the mark of an educated man, is it not? To be able to entertain an idea without accepting it. But if you're agnostic, what does it mean? So I asked him how he thought the stream went, and he responded that he got pushed back for having me on because of my controversial views about disabled children. Now, what did I actually say when you think about it? All those years on the Victoria Derbyshire show in 2010 it was, all those years ago. It's still online if you want to look for it. What I really said, if you wanted to summarise it in one sentence, was that I would not wish to bring up an infant who is deaf and blind and quadriplegic. That's all I said. I wouldn't want to do that. I would have thought that any rational parent would agree with me. How could they disagree? Are parents just raring to bring up quadriplegic infants who cannot lift their heads, who are deaf and blind? I think not. It is hypocrisy to pretend that they do. And those who are most indignant about what I say cannot be parents. And they must be people who have no intention whatsoever of doing such a thing out of taxed income. And from memory, what the exchange was. Victoria Derbyshire tried to put me in a corner. She pushed me into the corner by saying, "What would you do?" And I said, "I would abort such a fetus." And she said, "What if it is already born?" And then I said I would reject it. Meaning, not bring it back from the hospital. That's what parents who don't want their children do, isn't it? If they give birth in a hospital and they reject the child, they don't bring it back, and the doctor would, the hospital would be left with its procedures. Its procedures, as I understand it, is to keep the child, keep the infant comfortable, but not feed it and watch it shrivel away as the days go by. Now, is it more compassionate to do this just to avoid the accusation of infanticide, or to do it to starve? Now, you should just ask yourself, if you wanted to commit suicide, how would you do it? Would you do it in a way that is irreversible, or would you like to do it in a way that can be reversed? So, here we go again. Now, where was I? So I was basically saying that there are already death pathways in place in hospitals for parents who have severely disabled infants and who don't want to bring them up. And I pointed out that what I proposed was already in place. Why didn't he defend me? I actually said it. I said it on that stream, so he heard it. But I guess he was complaining about the pushback. Okay, it's not even fair to say he complained. I asked him how he thought the stream went, the stream that he invited me on. And this is what he said. Fair enough. He was telling me, or giving me an answer to the question that I asked. How did it go for? Well, I didn't say how did it go for him. I asked, how did it go? How did he think it went? And that was the first thing on his mind. It's quite telling, isn't it? Well, I tried, but I got pushed back because somebody complained that about you because of your views on severely disabled infants. And I already explained. Now, he could have chosen to defend me, but I guess he didn't want to be associated with me. It is true that there are procedures in place already in hospitals for parents who reject their severely disabled infants and don't want to bring it back home from hospital. I explained it on the stream. I guess he didn't really want to be seen to be defending me, and this was the pushback he got. So I asked him, I pointed out that nothing I had said was untrue, or illogical, or immoral, even. And he said, truth is not what is most sacred to him. And today I asked, what is sacred to him? And interestingly, he is about to type a response. I see that he, you know, the ... thing that you see when somebody's typing a response. So we'll see. I said, well, you know, you're obviously a nihilist, because a nihilist is somebody who has preferences. I mean, obviously we prefer not to be murdered, we prefer not to be stolen from, we prefer not to be victims of sexual offences. And we prefer, I think most of us prefer, that there is a law against eating an animal while it's still alive, and we prefer there to be an established court and legal system with which to enforce these laws. Oh, what a shame, the ... has disappeared. So, what am I trying to say? Nihilists, yes. Nihilists are people who have no principles. They actually declare that they have no principle because they won't defend any, right? They won't defend any principle. So they won't even defend, you know, a statement that somebody made, like, well, you know, we don't like it, but it's true what she said, you know, something along those lines. Not capable of it, not even after I defended myself, so he would know, you know, the truth, or he could even disagree. I don't agree with, you know, what you said. You know, there's just no possibility of a normal conversation, because, okay, I can, you know, go up to somebody and make a claim, and, you know, if the person understood what I was saying and disagreed, they would say, well, I disagree because X, or why do you say such a thing, or, you know, some kind of pushback, right? But with these people, there's just nothing except, oh, we're so offended. So basically, they're adults. Okay, they're children in adult bodies. They don't have any principles. All they care about is them getting hurt. They'll tell the truth if it serves them, but they'll lie or not defend the truth if they think they're going to get hurt. Now, yesterday I was saying, I forget on which stream now, I was quite busy. I was saying, oh yes, I was talking to Luke, which is, and that stream, that Luke Ford stream, on which I was guest, is still displayed, as far as I know. And I said to Luke Ford, who is infamous for not having any principles, and using the usual excuses like, well, I got to earn a living, I lose opportunities of sexual access if I say the wrong thing. And I said, come on, Luke, you're an Orthodox Jew. You converted to Orthodox Judaism. The thing is, these Jews, they don't even know stuff about their own religion. So if you want to say that, you know, what's so special about being a Jew, they would say, well, you know, we are the people who hate idolatry because we execute Jews if they're convicted of idolatry and blasphemy. You know, the 10 Commandments, they forbid idolatry and blasphemy. You may not heard of the Noahide laws, but in the 7 Noahide laws, that there are these two that forbid idolatry and blasphemy. So you would have thought they'd say something about that. I mean, they are God's chosen people, chosen to do stuff, I suppose, like, forbid idolatry, forbid blasphemy, or if they're not, in a position to forbid Gentiles from practicing their idolatry and blasphemy, then they would have to, well, say something about it. Just say something about it, or teach something about it. But Luke, as far as I know, well, he should know, of all people, being a Jewish convert, that there are some principles associated with Judaism. I should have asked him about Kiddush Hashem, which is sanctification in the name of God, because it's all about being a martyr for your beliefs, that a Jew is supposed to sacrifice his life if ordered to commit murder, idolatry, or adultery. But they don't, do they? And that, I suppose, is why they are hated. That is why they are hated. If you believed in God, a God who created good and evil, and if Jews are to regard anti-Semitism as an evil, then they would have to ask themselves why they suffer that evil, and is it because they are not fit for the purpose that God chose them to do? I'm saying that's exactly the problem. And I'm saying, well, don't worry about it, Jews, I'm doing it for you. And because they are so clearly not fitted for their purpose, God created Muslims to be their auxiliaries, but sadly these Muslims are not capable of fulfilling that purpose either. And but don't worry, Muslims, I'm doing it for you. All that stuff about warning those who claim that God has begotten the Son. Well, I'm doing it for you, because, well, I guess you're too scared. And this is how I assert status over these ancient religious groups. How long have Jews been around? 5, 6, 8, 2 years. Nearly 6,000. How long have Muslims been around? 1400 years. I assert status over them, because I do what they fear to do. But to be fair to this agnostic nihilist, he has responded, and he's going on about the Holy Spirit. I mean, you think of these Christians, and they actually believe in nonsense, don't they? Complete nonsense. And then they wonder why Jews rise above them, why Muslims rise above them in their own white homelands. And they still don't get it. And I try to explain to them, and they refuse to listen because, well, they prefer to believe the lies about me, so they don't have to. They don't have to act on what I say, so they can continue disregarding it. because they basically prefer to believe in lies. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was Paul van der Klee. His latest video is called... No, it's that Harry Potter one. He talks about Disney and Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling and Jordan Peterson. And it is a 1-hour stream. I'll put the link here in case any of you are interested. I mean, I'm going to cut and paste the title, because, you know, it's like the title is supposed to be informative, right? I mean, I try to make my titles informative so that it kind of, well, at the very least, it attracts people to view the stream. And I can change it later, you know, to reflect more the content of the stream, because sometimes I get distracted and I don't really talk about the subject that I was meant to talk about. But just look at this language, the collapse of unstable religious formation from modern fandoms. What the hell is that supposed to be about? So I guess he, well, if you know him, you will know that he's always talking about Jordan Peterson, and he's shaken hands with Jordan Peterson. He talks, and they both talk about the meaning crisis that John Vervaeke talks about, and but that's a way to build your channel, and Paul van der Klee understands that, all right. And what he does is create a kind of soundscape on his channel to attract the, to attract Trump supporters who dare not speak their name. But without actually explicitly supporting Trump, because they might get into trouble with their middle-class Christian social circles. Something like that. But one thing we notice about Jordan Peterson in his earlier lectures, if you caught any of that, is that you see him lecturing his students and talking about, what was it, Pinocchio. He turned Pinocchio into some kind of psychological, I don't know. But he was making kind of deep psychological points about Pinocchio and, you know, other Disney films, and frankly I was disgusted. Why would university students who are technically adults be pandered to in this way? Yeah, we've all seen Disney films which are fairy stories. Shouldn't we be talking about characters in a novel that might be considered one of the classics? If anybody knows of this concept, you know, Shakespeare or Greek tragedy, but they don't learn about these things anymore. All they know is about, you know, Disney and Marvel comics and shit like that, and basically Paul van der Klee is saying that it has become a micro-religion, and therefore an unstable religious formation, and J.K. Rowling is one of these creators of these unstable religious formations, these micro-religions, and therefore she was, the chief priestess of this religion for infantilized Western men, and you would have thought she was, top of the world, but she's been displaced because she wants to say that an individual born with female sex organs is a woman, and a man who was born with male sex organs cannot claim to be female, no matter what operations he has undergone. And she has been cancelled. And he's kind of implying that he doesn't quite approve. And then he links that with Jordan Peterson talking to a psychologist called Miriam Grossman, saying, oh, it's so terrible, all these parents who don't know what to do when their teenager comes to them and says they want to change their sex, and they go for help and immediately prescribed hormone blockers. They don't know what to do. They can't find each other on social media. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So what's going on here? What's going on here is that something is obviously wrong, but nobody wants to say it. I've been saying for a while that, well, you know my position on unmarried parents and what should be done to them under secular Quranism, 100 lashes per illegitimate offspring, which I notice quite a lot of you complaining about Jews and Muslims and immigrants don't quite want to do and don't want to say. Even the secular Quranists don't want to say it, don't want to abolish no-fault divorce, don't want to talk about these things that are going to offend so many of their social circles, don't want to. Guilty, I would say, of hidden idolatry. Yeah, I do go around making a point about idolatry and hidden idolatry, which even Jews and Muslims, apparently praying correctly, can be guilty of. And we see the consequence of this with Jews and Muslims not being fit for the purpose of discouraging idolatry and teaching about its harm. And this is what I'm trying to do. I think I am doing it reasonably well. I do assert status over these ancient religious groups because I do what they dare not do. And I will continue doing it. What I forgot to say about Luke Ford in our discussion about principles was that I accepted he had a problem, saying, well, sticking to any principle sticking to any principle because he doesn't really believe in God. He only converted to Judaism in order to assert status over his fellow Gentiles. And he thought being Jewish would give him protection against, all the right-wing things that he wants to say. And then he realised he couldn't say it because, well, he lost subscribers. And I said, come on, Luke, you're supposed to have principles, and even if you don't really believe, even if you don't really have them, you should at least pretend to have them. So, what is it, Luke? Do you have any principles you'd like to declare? Maybe I wasn't pushing hard enough, But really, that's what I'm saying, Are there any principles you would like to claim that you have? Just pretend, even if you actually wouldn't, And what does it mean to have a principle? And I think it means, what it means for the Jews, that there are principles you are supposed to die for. You have to martyr yourself and say, but it's the truth, and I'm going to say it because it is the truth. And even if you kill me, I don't care, because it is the truth. Obviously, it helps if you think the Abrahamic God exists to right wrongs in this life or the next, and that if you're burnt at the stake for saying that you don't quite agree that Jesus is the co-equal of the Abrahamic God who created the universe, then you will be rewarded by being sent to the better place in the afterlife. That is the bargain, isn't it? But if you don't believe in it, well, then of course you're just going to pretend that you believe that Jesus is God to avoid being burnt at the stake. Now, if this is the reality of Christianity when it worked in Europe, then it's easy to understand why the Founding Fathers decided to take it out with the trash. I don't think the American Revolution was about taxation without representation. It was really about rejecting Christianity and monarchy, but they haven't quite completed their project because they didn't declare America to be an Islamic republic, because even now America doesn't have an official religion, and if you try to point it out to Americans complaining about their government, they can't quite take it, or they pretend not to understand. Even those who claim to be no-hides, like James the Idol Smasher, what's his name? James? I forget his last name, but it can be discovered on his Odyssey channel. So in that regard, I've made these Americans have a think about, well, whether they need an official religion or not, and whether that religion can be Christianity. Yesterday, I discovered a Wikipedia entry called Christian Amendments. So there have been proposals since the American Civil War to make America explicitly Christian and therefore to discriminate against other religions. That would be a mistake. And interestingly, my conversation with Norvin Holmes revealed that he was afraid of these people who wanted to make Christianity the religion of America. So I urge Americans to have a serious think about this movement and to, well, crush it and offer the alternative of becoming an Islamic republic. And if that's too scary, they can talk about secular Quranism. Which is, well, agnosticism, isn't it? Now, before I go, I have to remember to talk about the Jordan Peterson part of the Paul van der Clay stream, which is about what parents are to do with their adolescent children who want to change sex and discover that they are being almost immediately prescribed hormone blockers. They try to do the right thing, these middle class parents who and I happen to know one of them whose adolescent offspring ended up committing suicide. And one of the questions I asked myself over the years, this happened a few years ago, was what I would have done if it had been my adolescent child. And I do not revise. I do not change what I said all those years ago about what I would have done, which was to say, well, if you want to do it, kiddo, you're not doing it under my roof. I don't support it, and well, you can do it on your own time, in your own place. So if you want to continue with this, well, get out of the house. Just get out. I disown you. I reject you, and just don't expect me to go along with this shit. And that is what I would have done, and because of what happened to this son of a school friend, he committed suicide. It occurred to me that I might want to revise my position, and having thought about it, I decided I would not, because, well, my school friend did all the government said she should have done, gone for help and, go through all the government recommended procedure, and the terrible thing happened to her son. If both methods entered in the same consequence of, death of son, then which one is preferable? That was the moral and philosophical question, and I was saying, well, the one of you saying you disapprove and you will disown any child of yours who wants to do this sort of thing. That would have been better, because there is a possibility of the child thinking that they would rather not be disowned, rather not be living on the streets or put in some care home, and rather be living with you and not changing their sex. Well, that would have saved their lives, I would have thought. So that is my position, and I'm sticking to it. But because most people calling themselves Christians, they don't really believe in it. They don't believe there is an afterlife. They only use Christianity as a this life religion, a kind of lifetime membership of their local church, so they can be with the people they want to be. They don't have to become Muslim, take on the religion of, low status immigrants from an immigrant culture, from countries that have been conquered by the West. They don't want to do that. They want to, mix with other, nice, liberal, white, middle-class people in their nice, white, middle-class neighbourhoods. They don't want to be thinking that, that Christianity is idolatry, and the sin is its own punishment, as they must surely be beginning to feel now that they are being punished because they have been cursed by God. So I think this finishes my sermon of the day. I'll read the chat now. So I see that Mark Smith is claiming that Christians are getting stronger. I don't see it. If they're getting so strong, people like Paul Van der Clay would be able to have me on his stream and talk about stuff that he doesn't want to talk about for very long. He's expert at creating content about saying nothing in particular. I don't know what you mean, Alan Bastard, when you say Peterson is a mincer. You saying he's gay? I don't know. All these words, these neologisms. Most of the time I don't know what the hell most people are saying. And most of the time if you ask them what they're saying, they'll get angry with you. So Mark Smith is still not getting it about the Abrahamic God because he wants to cling to his Christianity. But he asks a good question. Who is Claire's God? I submit only to truth, logic and morality. So if I made an incorrect claim if I made an incorrect statement, then I'm happy to retract it. If I later discover that an argument is unsound, I'll revise it, I'll change it, I'll retract it. If I discover that what I propose is in fact immoral, I will also correct and retract it. What is morality? I'm saying morality is a system of rules with the purpose of keeping the group in existence and apart from others. So all religions are moral systems. There are 5 world religions. There's no point considering anything smaller than the 5 world religions. Why would you choose something obviously inferior? Why would you? You must be an Islamophobe if you're Gentile. And I'm saying merely Jews if they really believed in Judaism and its punishments, they would have to convert to Islam too. So there are a lot of Jews using Judaism as a lifetime religion, membership of their social club. It's all snobbery. They just don't want to admit that they've been wrong all their lives, or that their parents have been wrong all their lives, or that their ancestors have been wrong. And the duration of the error is as long as 2,000 years. They don't want to admit that. And the Jews and Muslims are too terrified of telling them. And that's why I do it on their behalf. And that's why I assert status over them, and that's why they have to listen to me. But they're not listening to me. Well, most of them are not thinking of listening to me. They think they can do it on their own. Correct these Christians on their own. No, they can't do it on their own. They can't do it without me, and they can't do it without each other. Five what, Mark Smith? What are you saying? So 5 world religions. So I'm saying there are 5. But Hinduism and Buddhism are religions of fallen civilizations. I don't see anything impressive about Hinduism or Buddhism politically. Who represents Buddhism in your mind? The Dalai Lama, who wants little boys to suck his tongue? It's quite obvious that priesthoods are a haven for pederasts, particularly those who are expected to be celibate. They think that if they live in monasteries with each other, they can have sex with each other and no one will tell on them. Because if they're not having sex with members of the opposite sex, no woman is going to be pregnant and accuse them, so they can have sex with each other. So this is really the reality of priesthoods. And that is why John Vervaeke and his lot should have another think when they are pushing the crap of mindfulness on their followers. Why do Westerners love the whole Buddhism thing? Because it allows them to sin, and no Dalai Lama, who's only an American stooge anyway, is going to tell them off. That's why they have such a good press. Little Buddha is a Hollywood movie, isn't it? Hollywood is the seal of approval of the CIA, really. The Dalai Lama is useful for having a go at China, for controlling Tibet, which has been part of China for, well, on and off for quite a while. Why would one empire be telling off another empire for being imperial? It is the sheer hypocrisy of it that is so nauseating. But anyway, what I was trying to say was that Hinduism and Buddhism are not good enough, even for Orientals. Not good enough. So I'm not going to be recommending something that isn't good enough for Asians and Orientals to the suffering people of the West who don't have an official religion. Why would I? So, if Christianity is kaput and most Westerners are not Jews, what religion left is there for them? I don't know when Ralph is coming back on. He was saying, I'll mention that you want him on, Dr. Mengele, because I'm like that. I try to be helpful and obliging. I hope that most of you get what I'm saying. I think you do. What I think is a problem is that you think it's enough just to post your crap on social media and never talk to anybody in real life and say, pass on the message. You're not passing on the message. That's your problem. You think it's enough to just post shit on social media. No, you have to speak to someone in real life, face to face, and say these things. I've given you all the arguments, I've given you all the facts. If you can't do it, I guess well, I guess your civilization doesn't deserve to win or survive. It's sad, isn't it? Given you everything, but you're just too gutless. Too gutless to even try to put arguments together, like this software engineer. You know, software engineers, they just have no opinion. You know, they're like tabula rasa or something. You know, they're completely blank. You know, anybody's capable of influencing them, they go with the mainstream, just like women. Because it's safer, isn't it? It's safer to go with the mainstream. Even if you don't believe the shit they ask you to believe, it's safer to pretend you do, and that's what they do. There are no men. Forget all the potential transgender people of the future. The ones who still claim to be men are, in fact, women. They think like women, they talk like women, with their effeminate gestures. They don't even know what they're not supposed to say to women they want to impress. Yes, Dr. Mengele, I understand that you... I know most of you are low-status people, and you don't think anyone would ever listen to you. You assume failure, and that's why you think, you know, well, at least I can use Jews as a punch bag. Surely even you, Dr. Mengele, you have somebody you like and trust that you can talk about these things to. A brother, a father, a best friend, somebody like that, or you don't even have that. And that is really how sad most of you are, people bumping along at the bottom who have no one they trust enough in real life to talk about these things. You've been totally atomized, completely disintegrated as a society. You actually have no one in real life that you trust enough to talk about these things to. If you have fathers, you've never met them. If you know them, you're estranged from them. Forget the government trying to divide us according to race. It is actually the most important divisions would be dividing us by sex and dividing us by generation. The racial differences, actually, it's nothing at all. If you can't talk to your children and your children can't talk to you about politics and morality, well, you haven't got much of a relationship, have you? And if you can't marry a person of your race, of the opposite sex, then you're pretty much screwed. And if you can't talk about even this to each other, well, I guess Western civilization is so completely rotten, there's no point saving it. So finally, Dr. Mengele admits, never talk politics or religion with friends or family. That's quite sad, isn't it? What are they for? I regard my YouTube relationships as, well, practically family. You can say whatever you think of them, and they still have to talk to you because they have to produce content. And even if they won't talk about you directly, they still talk about you, and it is better to be talked about than not talked about at all.